Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Brisbane Broncos Rugby League Club. I love coming here, obviously. I have some very fond memories at this place, coming back from winning a couple of grand finals, and watching Alf being carried across, telling everyone that St George can't play, and all that sort of thing. So it's a wonderful place to be, to come back here and think about the wonderful memories that I have. I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Turrbal people, who are the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we stand. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. It is an absolute pleasure for me to be here today to formally announce continued funding for a very important Queensland sporting initiative, the Arthur Beetson Foundation Murri Rugby League Carnival. I made a promise to myself when I was elected to the Senate that I would work as hard as I could and achieve the best outcomes for the people of Queensland. I have consulted with and listened to the people of Queensland, and as a result I voted against the deregulation of universities, stopping the cost of university degrees increasing beyond the reach of most Australians. I voted against the introduction of a GP co-payment, and I voted against cuts to the pension. I am driven by people policy and not party policy. As you know, I love sport, and I feel very strongly about the important role of sport and recreation in our society in bringing communities together, improving health and well-being, tackling obesity and other social issues, helping people to make the right choices, building self-esteem and self-confidence, developing leadership, fostering teamwork and engaging communities. Just 3 months ago, I secured the return of the vital funding to the Big Issues Street Soccer Program, an initiative which supports and engages the homeless and underprivileged through sport. The program has centres in both Brisbane and in Townsville. The Abbott Government had cut the funding to the program, and the impact on Queensland was significant. I am proud to have righted this wrong. I made it clear to the Abbott Government that I am not going to go away, and that I am prepared to shirt front Tony Abbott if necessary to get the results for Queensland. Thankfully, I've not yet had to do this. Perhaps the threat of me shirt fronting him is enough for him to agree to my constant demands. And today I'm pleased to announce that the Abbott Government has again listened to my demands, and in response to my continual lobbying and requests for action, and it is kindly agreed to fund the 2015 Arthur Beetson Murri Rugby League Carnival. So today, it is with great pleasure that I formally announce I have secured monies from the federal government to fund the conduct of the Murri Carnival this year in the form of $175,000 grant. This grant will enable the carnival to take place this year. Without this grant, staging the Murri Carnival this year would not have been possible. Federal government funding is an essential ingredient to this carnival's success. This is a brilliant outcome for Queensland Rugby League and our first Australian community. The Murri Carnival is one of Australia's most successful and healthiest sporting carnivals. It is alcohol, tobacco and even sugar-free. It requires all players and participants to take part in health checks, and for under 15s players to achieve a school attendance record of 90% to be eligible to play. It involves 3 competitions, 64 teams and over 30,000 spectators. Now, on good authority, I've been told that they believe the number of teams will increase this year, which is a great result. Players involved in this carnival have secured scholarships, employment and other opportunities as a direct result of their participation. The Murri Carnival is a shining example of Queenslanders' ability to draw on sport as a vehicle to bring communities together and encourage healthy living and healthy choices. The Murri Carnival is successful due to the sheer passion, energy, focus and dedication of many people, including the Arthur Beetson Foundation, the Queensland Aboriginal and Islander Health Council, and the Institute of Urban Indigenous Health, and many others. I would now like to welcome Brad Beetson, son of league legend and one of my idols, Arthur Beetson, to representative to the stage on behalf of the Arthur Beetson Foundation and talk a little bit about the carnival. Brad?
Good morning. Firstly, I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of this land, both past and present. To Senator Lazarus, I'd like to be deeply grateful on behalf of the Foundation for your involvement in securing the funding for our carnival. It's something that I'm very proud of, and I know my family and also the Foundation, we're both all very proud of that we continue my father's legacy through the vehicle of rugby league, improving health and school outcomes for Indigenous people. Through our partnership with Quake Indigenous and the Institute of Urban Indigenous Health, the Deadly Choices program, we're very proud that the involvement we get with the outcomes of health, school, and general bringing people together as one mob and one people under the banner of the Arthur Beetson Foundation. The Horizons, Queensland, University of Queensland, all our other partners, we're very thankful that you guys support us in what we do. We're looking to become bigger and better this year. As Glenn was saying, we've got more teams hopefully coming this year, over 70 sides all up. Through the carnival, we get over 30,000 spectators come through, and mainly Indigenous people and other avenues of people come to watch rugby league, and also people from outside rugby league also continue to get health checks, and we're very thankful for that, and would be sadly missed in our community of Indigenous people that this event did not happen. So thank you very much to you, Senator Lazarus, once again, and to everyone else for turning up, thank you very much, and thank you.
Thanks, Brad. I would now like to welcome Adrian Carson, CEO of the Institute for Urban Indigenous Health, to speak on behalf of the Institute and its continued involvement and Deadly Choices partnership with the Murri Carnival. And I'd just like to personally thank Adrian, because it was Adrian who came to my office in Brisbane and alerted me to the funding cut. I was disgusted at the fact that the government had cut the funding, and as a result, we are here today to announce that it's been reinstated. So, Adrian.
So I'll begin by acknowledging traditional owners, elders past and present, and reinforce the earlier comments from Brad. Thanks to the Senator for taking up the challenge when many others didn't. There was quite a few meetings in Canberra to argue the case for the continuation of the Murri Carnival, a carnival that's operated actually in South East Queensland for 4 years, 3 years with the Arthur Beetson Foundation. And I think one of the only events in the country which clearly demonstrates the link between health and sport. The Senator's mentioned the fact that I think it's the only one in the country, Senator, I think you can safely say that, that's alcohol, tobacco, and now sugar-free. And it took a little while for our communities to get used to that, but now it's the norm. Now, the first couple of years of the carnival, for those that are around in the early days, there was a bit of resistance to not being able to smoke and buy coke, but the important thing is the change is starting to occur, and this is now seen as the norm. And so again, a special thanks to the Senator for his leadership. I know the work of Scotty Higgins as well in his office, quite a few emails, Scott. A lot of work involved in actually getting this over the line, so thank you very much, Senator. For the Institute for Urban Indigenous Health, we're the owners of the Deadly Choices program. We're pleased to again partner with the Arthur Beetson Foundation, always a source of great pleasure and pride for us to be associated with the great man and his great sons, and living the legacy of the great Arthur Beetson. I was reminded when I met Arthur only a couple of times, and those times are burnt in my memory. And the one thing he was most engaged with was a conversation we had at the launch of the first Murri Carnival down the Gold Coast. And he had quite a few ex-NRL players that were kind of very cheerfully having a couple of sips, and by the time we got to speak, there wasn't a whole lot of ears, I think, tuned into the message. After the speeches, we walked out the back, and there's Arthur Beetson asking a whole heap of detailed questions about the work of Deadly Choices and the importance of focusing on urban Indigenous health, which is what the Institute was always about. So again, I thank the Beetson Foundation. Always a pleasure and pride to work with you, and also with Quake, the Queensland National Health Council, the peak body for community controlled health services. I think the important thing for government to understand is that these things don't work when government's involved, and the fact that this has always come from communities, and particularly it's come from the community control health sector, has meant that these outcomes that Matthew will speak about, without saying that, is evident. You know, it's when government gets involved that things don't work in Indigenous affairs. I think we've got a long history of that. So really important that this carnival continues this year, and even more important, Senator, that we have the best carnival ever, so we can actually secure funding for another 3 years. So thanks again.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, mate. I would now like to welcome Matthew Cook, CEO of the Queensland Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health Council, to speak about the role of the carnival and how it contributes to improved health for First Australian.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you, Senator Lazarus. Without your support, today wouldn't be possible, and the success of the carnival certainly wouldn't be able to proceed this year. Can I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet today? Also acknowledge my chairperson that's joined here with us today, Elizabeth Adams, a few of our directors in the room, Lynn Chipway, the Institute for Indigenous Health, and the Arthur Beetson Foundation, and all our other stakeholders and partners in the room today. And also acknowledge, importantly, the players and participants that are in the room. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here. This carnival and all the proceeds and everything that we do is all about improving your health and well-being, and certainly success has spoken for itself. As Adrian said, the carnival has been operating for some 4 years, I believe, since 2012, I think was the first one it initiated and began with, and this year is expected to have, I think, some 8,000 health checks completed here in the state of Queensland. So not only is this an outcome for sport, it is an outcome that results in improving the health and well-being of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Queenslanders, and that important job of closing the gap. One important thing to mention, yesterday we've seen the release of the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare's report card around closing the gap, and it spoke very much about the alarming rates of mental health, social and emotional well-being, and suicide in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander populations. This carnival is not only about improving the physical health of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Queenslanders, it also improves the social and emotional well-being of our players, participants and communities. It is the success of over 25 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community controlled health organisations that work with successful programs such as the Deadly Choices program to bring together those participants and players, and as I said, that essentially achieve that crucial goal of closing the gap. But without the support of Senator Lazarus, it wouldn't have been possible for this carnival to continue. Quade plays a small role in facilitating the funds that come from the Commonwealth Government to the Arthur Beetson Foundation itself. A very vital one, but importantly the hard work is achieved by the Arthur Beetson Foundation and our partners and stakeholders and members with the Institute for Urban Indigenous Health. Again, I'd like to say to the Senator, we're very grateful of your support. We hope that you continue to achieve for Queensland, and importantly, achieving the outcomes for our players and participants and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander population of Queensland. So please, once again, put your hands together and thank our Senator for Queensland, Lazarus. And just before the Senator moves on, we're just going to bring up a small presentation to present with him a jersey in honour and appreciation of his support towards the Murri Carnivals.
Thank you very much. Big enough too, are you? Right on. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Matthew. The Murri Carnival and the Koori Carnivals have a special place in my heart because, believe it or not, I was actually a participant in a Koori Carnival in Armidale some many years ago. Played for the Bullinella Warriors, a team that came out of Canberra. We went on and we went okay. My most vivid memory was we played Walgett and we kicked off, and you might know this player, Ricky Walford, got the football, brought it back, and In those days I didn't have my tackling technique down pat, and I got him a bit high, and of course his teammates and all the fans who were supporting Wildwood on that day certainly took offence to that, and if it wasn't for my other teammates, I think I wouldn't be standing here today. They were very angry and cross, head-eyeing their superstar Murri Carnival, who obviously was and still is a legend. I'd like to also acknowledge and thank everyone involved with the carnival, and of course the code of rugby league. It's very close to my heart, as it is yours. Coaches and the players and the referees, the supporters, your attendance, and obviously thank you all for being here today. I'd also like to mention that I see in the audience players that still come, who I've coached in the past and was very privileged to do so and past. And of course, old teammates of mine, as an old front rower, one of the things that you did appreciate is when you took the ball forward, you got up and played the ball, and then you saw your very classy centres going and scoring tries in the corner, like Steve Renoff, made my job very easy and very, very enjoyable. And Pearl, I'd like to thank you for the years that you took advantage of my good work. There you go. More often than not, and obviously the most vivid memory of Pearl, of course, is scoring that wonderful full-length try, and I think it was Ricky Walford who was chasing you in 1992, mate. So I'm glad you're here, mate. Thank you very much for coming. Before I close here today, I'd just like to call on Brad, Adrian and Matthew to come up and assist me with questions if there are any from any of the media outlets here today. So would you guys mind coming up? If we have any questions, fire away. Yeah.
Do you mind me yelling?
No.
How long is the funding secured for? Is it just for this year or is it ongoing?
Yeah, unfortunately it is just for this year, but it's a start. It's obviously something that is very important to the First Australians community. It's important to the rugby league community, the Redcliffe community, the Queensland community, and it's something that I will certainly be taking to Tony Abbott in the years to come to get long-term funding. I think there's no reason at all why this should not be funded long-term. There are absolutely no negatives to this. It's all positive, and I'll be taking that to Tony Abbott certainly next year.
Senator, you mentioned, or it was mentioned before, about the higher rate of Indigenous suicide for young people compared to non-Indigenous young people. What impact does a carnival like this have on addressing that kind of issue, and how important is that for you now as, I guess, an independent senator to tackle that sort of that scourge of Indigenous mental health issues?
Well, look, I believe there's too much negativity in politics at the moment. I think we're all focused on budget deficits and cutting and slashing and burning, and I think this is just, and I like to focus on the positive, and this is absolutely a positive for not only, as I said, all those communities, but for the players themselves. I think it showcases that it is okay to get a health check. You know, it is okay to go to a doctor and say, listen, I've got a bit of pain here, or I've got some issues. And I think that this carnival certainly highlights that. But I'd like to hand over to either Matthew or Adrian, who could give us probably some figures on that.
Yeah, if I could say, I think it's the importance of this carnival is about, as the Senator said, encouraging people to take their health into their hands and feel enabled to access health care, and certainly with the Aboriginal Community Controlled Health Services across the state of Queensland, we strive to do that and use this vehicle with the Murri Rugby League Carnival to encourage Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Queenslanders to seek care and help from their doctors, from their medical centres across the state. It is only through that improved access that we'll see those rates around Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander suicide and alarming rates around social and emotional wellbeing decrease when we improve that access. This carnival has been a great achievement for Queensland. If you look at the Medicare data, just as one example, it shows a very sharp increase of the amount of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Queenslanders accessing their medical centres to seek preventative health checks. And there's that prevention and early detection that'll improve those rates for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Queenslanders.
Can I just follow up on that one? Yep. How successful do you think you've been getting the message through to Aboriginal communities that they need health checks and stuff like that?
Very successful with, as I said, expected over 8,000 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health checks to happen as a result of this carnival. Speaks well for the success of the carnival. And around that question earlier with regards to the funding itself, success will breed success. And I believe that the Abbott Government has listened to the Senator because this is success. It is first for Australia, but year in, year out, those successes have grown. Nothing's plateaued. We've seen growth each year, and that comes from a great partnership between the sporting community, the government, and our brothers and sister organisations at the Institute for Urban Indigenous Health, who run a very successful Deadly Choices program that's aimed and targeted at improving behavioural choices and lifestyle choices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Queenslanders. The success, as I said, speaks for itself. Having over 30,000 people at a carnival that has no alcohol, no sugar, no cigarettes, is not heard of in this country. So I'll let that, I guess, speak for itself.
So after the tournament, does the interest level keep up, or is there a bit of drop off?
Certainly the carnival provides an opportunity to create that relationship with our Aboriginal Medical Service, and we are seeing the results being sustained itself, but it's more than just simply a carnival that happens once a year itself. It is about that continual engagement, and through the successful programs of the Tackling Tobacco and Healthy Lifestyle programs itself, where the Deadly Choices program has achieved great results and success, it's about maintaining those programs year in, year out, month in, month out, to ensure that we are assisting and enabling Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to access preventative health. Thank you.
Senator, you've obviously negotiated successfully with the Abbott Government in this scenario. Do you see now that you've split with the Palmer United Party that you'll maybe be more open to negotiating with the federal government on some of their budget measures from this time and last time?
The fact that I'm now an independent senator for Queensland, I don't think makes me think any differently about what I believe is right and what is wrong. What it's done is that it's allowed me to be more accessible to the ministers in their related area. I just think that as an independent, I can make a decision based on what the people of Queensland want. As I said before, I'm not guided by party policy, I'm guided by people policy, and my decisions are based on what I am told, what information I can gather from the people of Queensland, and I take that to Canberra and I vote accordingly.
So you couldn't be swayed to change your vote on some of those big issues like higher education reform and the GP co-payment that you mentioned before?
Well, certainly not those two. I've made that very clear. I don't want to discourage anyone from furthering their education, and I think that's what deregulation university fees will do. GP co-payment discourage, and this, we're talking about health checks and things. GP co-payments would discourage people from going to doctors when needed. And so I won't be voting for GP co-payments or deregulation university fees.
What do you make of Joe Hockey's comments this morning, his solution to the housing crisis in Sydney, that you just need to get a better job to buy a house?
Look, I've had some dealings with Joe, and I find him to be not a bad bloke, but sometimes I think he's out of touch big time. But look, at the end of the day, it's an issue that I don't think there's any losers or winners. It's one of those really tricky situations where, as investors, we like to see housing prices go up, but as first-home buyers or buyers of houses to live in, we would like to see those reduced. I mean, I don't know how we balance that, but look, I don't know. He needs to take a mirror to bed with him, and then he can wake up to himself when it comes to comments like that. All right.
Can I ask one more political question?
Yeah.
I realise we're supposed to be here to talk about football,
that's
so
exactly
I
right. I will remind you of that.
Can I ask whether you have had any positive conversations with Clive Palmer recently? Would you consider ever voting as a bloc with him again, or with his senator in the Senate again?
Look, I've moved on from that particular issue. I'm really enjoying being an independent senator for Queensland. I am always accessible by the people of Queensland. I'm in North Queensland all the time, and I wouldn't want it any other.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you all very much for coming on. Let's go.